Welcome back to Hype Girl Energy. I'm super excited about today's guest, Jill Marchant, formerly Chief Legal Officer at Hallmark, and now taking her talents to the fast-growing Swig. Jill, thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, and I should say thanks for having me because we're sitting in your beautiful downtown view condo.
We are. It's been a lovely place to watch the seasons change and to watch the city celebrate its teams. No better view for the 4th of July or the Memorial Day fireworks. So we have loved being part of the Kansas City community.
Well, and the Kansas City community has been super lucky to have you. Let's start with Kansas City before we go into all things Swig. You just finished up at Hallmark. Tell me, how did you get there? Tell me about your story.
Well, Hallmark was, up to this point for sure, the pinnacle of my career. And it's kind of an interesting story about, I think, confidence, because I was working in Kentucky and we were living on a beautiful horse property in an equestrian community. My husband was very involved in our community and our neighborhood. And I got a call from a recruiter about possibly throwing my hat in the ring for the senior most legal position at Hallmark. And initially I hesitated. And I've thought about this since then. At first, I think I blamed my hesitation on, oh, Tom's so happy here. We have our dream home and our horses eating on the paddocks out front. And, but now that I've looked back on it, I think it was more fear that I wouldn't be picked, afraid to put my hat in the ring and be so crushed if I didn't get the job. And I wondered, gosh, would they really pick me? Could I be the one? Because I was such a huge Hallmark brand fan, consumer and viewer and visitor already. In fact, in one of my interviews with Don Hall, he asked me, did I have any connections to the brands, Hallmark and Crayola? And I was starting to tell many of my connections to the brands. And Don, being the just absolute wonderful human that he is, just delicately looked at his watch, kind of like, okay, you can stop now. I see that you have lots of connections to our two beloved and iconic brands, which I really did. But on reflection, I think I was afraid. And I think sometimes we as women don't think we can do it, and we become our own self-fulfilling prophecies. And I put my hat in the ring, and we went through a long recruiting and courtship before Hallmark made its choice, and I got the job. And it was truly like the thrill of a lifetime. Not only to work for such an iconic, important Kansas City company, but to work for these two beloved brands, but also to come home to Kansas City, where 2 of our 3 children were born and where we had lived, and it really did feel like a homecoming.
Oh, that is beautiful. Okay, and then in your time at Hallmark, were you always chief legal, or what did that progression look like once you moved back to Kansas City and took that role?
Yes, I think they had it titled maybe as general counsel at the time, and this is all semantics in the legal field, but the title Chief Legal Officer often communicates that there are general's counsel reporting to you. And the way I restructured the legal organization at Hallmark, I embedded and formalized the embedment of general's counsel in each of the businesses. So we have a general counsel over Hallmark Media, a general counsel for Crown Center, a general counsel for Crayola, and a general counsel for the core Hallmark products business, products, experiences, ornaments, the stores, all of it. And so at that time we decided to make it clear that I was the enterprise senior most person, but each of the businesses also had someone embedded on their teams to stay completely abreast of all the activity happening in each business and the issues that had legal implications, or just to be really a good business partner to the businesses in making their strategies and tactics happen. So, but the position largely remained the same, but I was brought in to definitely sort of reimagine the way that Hallmark Legal functioned and the philosophies and the engagement with the business, and that's something that I'm really proud of.
What did you feel like during that time was your biggest hurdle that you had to get through? Obviously, you're a female in a C-suite position. You're creating this, new dynamic in how you wanted everything structured. Like, what was the biggest hurdle, and how did you overcome that?
Such a good question, because Hallmark has such a great culture, and Hallmark has lots of women in leadership. So it was never for me a concern about my gender or keeping up with the men, or would I be welcomed, embraced, listened to, any of those things. It was really that I was going to bring dramatic change to the legal team. And it was a very lonely time. When you are moving people's cheese and you're changing a lot of things, and you may have some early adopters, you may have some fence sitters who are like, I'm going to watch and wait and see what she's doing here and how that goes. And then you absolutely have some contrarians. But it's just a lonely time because you're bringing change. And I was very clear to articulate the change and the why behind the change. And I also didn't make the change right away. So when you come into a new leadership position, you need to just watch and observe. The most important things are to build relationships, build trust. Don't assume you know. And I have this tactic that I've used in several of my leadership roles where I get a notepad. For the first 90 days, I jot down everything that seems odd to me. Like, we do this, that's weird. Or we do that, this is weird. And then at the end of the 90 days, I go look through the list, and candidly, a lot of the things start to make sense. So the more you learn the business, its culture, its strategies, its risk tolerance for a field like mine, you start to realize, okay, some of this stuff makes sense, and I cross those things off. But what still remained on my list were the things I went to go after. And I was really lucky to have two partners with me. I had an HR partner who was helping me, and one of my peers who was just telling me, encouraging me, supporting me, was a great sounding board. And my HR partner, Cassie, at the time, said, don't confuse how hard it is with how well you're doing. And that kept me going every single day because it felt so hard. And I wondered, am I making a difference? Am I building this out the way I think it needs to be built out? Am I creating the right culture and the right mindset and behaviors on this team? And that's really what kept me going. And then eventually the early adopters become your energy, and it grows. And people make choices. If they love the change, they stay. If they don't, they might make different choices. But I got to a place where I felt really good about the way we were perceived by the business, included in the business conversations at the very outset. We were a team that was in the room where it happens, and that was really my goal. But it was a lonely, hard time at the beginning, for sure.
Okay, and then what about the rewarding side of things? Obviously, I know how passionate you are about Hallmark and Kansas City. You know, what has been the most rewarding part of your time at Hallmark?
Oh gosh, so many things. I would say our businesses have been and continue to go through a time of transformation. And one of the most rewarding things is the talent that I brought to Hallmark and that we developed, who had the right mindsets and behaviors to help a transforming business or transforming businesses get things done that the businesses needed and wanted to get done. Yes, as a legal team, we have to help manage risk and identify risk, and you have kind of the things that happen when you own a big business that have legal implications. But it's the most thrilling when you are part of the team that is making a business strategy come to life. And I think I'm just super proud of the talent that I was able to bring to Hallmark and the mindsets and behaviors they had to be considered a business partner and to be included along the way. And I just built and led a fantastic team of talented legal professionals who are not just admired and respected by the business, but included as part of the business team.
You know, Hallmark is obviously such a pivotal company in Kansas City. It's, you know, a forward thinker in the creative world, not just here, but even outside of the city. What's one thing you're going to miss as you make your transition to Swig?
I will miss so much about Hallmark. I don't think I was there very long before I started asking to be part of the alpha or beta test for a product or an app or a consumer experience, when I started giving notes on some of the movies. And they actually welcomed that, which I really, really appreciated, because I was there not to be part of the creative team and not to have a necessarily defined business role in making all of our creative things happen. But they welcomed the love for the brand and the products and services and experiences and content, and embraced me when I wanted to participate that and offer my feedback and insights. And I remember one time we were shutting down a certain card app. It was the Shoebox app that we used as sort of a test as we moved into digital cards, which you can now send from your phone. You can take a picture of your signature. I mean, it looks handwritten, it's beautiful, and you can do it all from your phone. But I remember them teasing me that, well, it'll be tough for Jill when we shut down the Shoebox app, because she's been one of our biggest users. And I'd given feedback and stuff on it, or if I'd had a glitch or something. But just being included in the beautiful creative processes in Hallmark and Crayola that bring these things to the world that are needed so much right now: care, connection, creativity, escape, giving people words that they can't find themselves when someone's going through a hard time. So I will miss being on the inside of that, but they know that I will keep up on the outside, and I'll still be buying all the things and watching all the things. And now that I have a new grandson, I'll be buying all the Crayola creative products and toys for him, because I want him to experience creativity as a source of release and emotion, and just those things that it grows in us when we use our creative skills, whether we think we have them or not. So while I won't be on the inside anymore, they know I'll be still one of their biggest fans on the outside.
I love it. Switching gears, what made you switch from Hallmark to Swig?
What an agonizing decision and process that was. And I've kind of summarized it this way: it was the hardest professional but easiest personal decision I've ever made. Hardest professionally just because of my experience at Hallmark, my love for the brands and the people and the leadership, and my love for Kansas City, this community. But on the personal front, I have a new grandson in Utah. 2 of my 3 children live there. And I think as you start to think about maybe your last professional chapter, what do you want out of that? I was definitely intrigued with Swig from a business perspective, but you combine the opportunity to do something professionally that I've never done, which is to work for a new, up-and-coming, thriving, high-energy, growing brand. I've always worked for well-established, seasoned companies that have a long history and well-known brands, whether you're thinking about Honeywell or Applebee's or Hallmark. To work for someone that's new, a brand that's new and exciting and fun and just growing like wildfire. And so professionally, that was super intriguing. But personally, it also gave me the opportunity to physically be near my 2 of my 3 children and my new grandson, and be near the places and people I love the most. Whatever you call your higher power, whether for you that's, God or destiny or fate or karma, although I think sometimes karma has a negative connotation, whatever you want to call it. I was introduced to the CEO of Swig. I think he was looking to make a decision. Was he ready for a legal professional to join the executive team? Were they at that point in their growth journey where it made sense to have that person be embedded on the executive team and do some other pieces of work that weren't being led at the time? And so a mutual friend connected us, and we have this terrific Zoom. And there are just those people that you meet where the rapport and the chemistry is just palpable. You can just tell. I mean, you've been like that for me in many ways as a professional that I work with. And it just felt so wonderful. And I thought he was hard charging and decisive, but kind and warm. I think he had a lot of great energy about what he thought the brand could do and where it could go. And we just had some really great conversation. And he's told this story as well. And at the end of the conversation, I said to Tom, my husband, we've been saying if we had an opportunity that was intellectually stimulating and financially rewarding, that would take us to be near our children, we would have to seriously consider that. And I looked at him and I went, and he was like, yeah, we've been saying that. Could this be it? So in that moment, I just shot Alex a little note by email, and I said, should we explore this? I've kind of been praying for something like this, and his name showed up in my email like right as I pressed send. So I thought, okay, I got to bounce back. Like, oh, I must have mistyped his name in the to line. Well, he, at the exact same moment,
had
emailed me
Oh,
and said,
I have chills.
I have chills. Would you ever consider this? And literally in cyberspace, he thought the same thing. Oh, I got to bounce back. She's got an out of office message on, or I didn't. And we both had the same idea that we should explore this. And at that point, it was just an exploration. And of course, it was heavy on my heart, the thought of leaving Kansas City, where my oldest daughter and her husband live, and of course, leaving Hallmark. Hard and heavy things weighing on my heart, but also, it's truly the definition of bittersweet. Also the sweetness of the idea of being in a place we love so much, near 2 of our 3 children and our new grandson, and then to be part of such an exciting opportunity professionally to grow a brand and be part of building something, and so just professionally and personally, I couldn't miss the opportunity to do it, as much of a bittersweet decision it was.
And what are you most looking forward to? Obviously, you've started at Swig. You've got your feet on the ground.
Yes.
What has you excited? What are you hoping to implement in your first 90 to 180 days?
Well, there are probably some things that are going to need to get done, but I think I'll follow that same rule that I did before, right? Which is get to know the people, get to know the culture, get to know the business, like listen, observe, jot things down on my notepad and see what still floats to the top at the end of 90 days. But I'm just super excited about Swig, and I think what it can mean to the communities where it is. I think, if you look back historically, people questioned whether people would really drive through and pay more than a couple dollars for a good cup of coffee. And they will, right? And I think Swig has that same opportunity. It's more than just a fun beverage. It's an experience, for a mom with a car full of kids, or someone who just got out of a tough meeting at work, or someone who just needs an escape, and so it's the experience, it's what we do, and we do it with a smile, and we make you feel better after you've come through. And I haven't said this, but, before in our conversation, but I was a Swig drinker for a long time.
Oh my gosh,
So immediately for me was similar to my experience with Hallmark, hey, do you have any connections to the brand? Oh, yes, I've been drinking it. Yeah, I can tell you what I like, and here's some suggestions. And so not only do I love the brand and what it does, we don't take ourselves too seriously. We call it happiness in a cup, right?
Love that.
It's just fun. It's just something that you probably wouldn't do for yourself at home, but you can go through the drive-through and get an amazing beverage, whether it's a dirty soda or a yummy hot chocolate or a sparkling water, which are some of my favorites, that someone else makes for you and serves you with a smile. It's just a fun experience.
Well, and speaking of experience, it is an experience. So, I've tested it out in Kansas City. I remember we FaceTimed you from the car because the line was like 30 some cars long.
Yes.
How did Swig gain its popularity? What exactly is it for those who may not know?
Yes. Well, if you're in Kansas City, it's here and it's growing. So there are definitely opportunities to try it. And of course, we'd love to be in every community in every state, in the country for sure. It was founded, and this is so interesting because I was realizing that Swig and Hallmark are exactly about 100 years apart. So Hallmark is 115 years old in 2025. And Swig just celebrated its 15th anniversary. So another little interesting connect point.
I love it.
So it was founded in 2010 by Nicole Tanner, now Robison, who was a mom that just needed an escape. Pile those 5 kids in the car, get them out of my hair. What can we make an adventure? And they would go and they would grab a soda at one of their favorite drive-thrus. And when she had that experience, she was like, you know what, I think this could be better. I think if I could go to a place where they would just focus on the drink part and not all, the food and the burgers and the fries and all the things, this could be a really great thing. Mm-hmm. So she founded Swig in St. George, Utah, 15 years ago. And Swig is original home of the dirty soda, right? Which is this idea of taking your favorite soda base, whether you're a Coke or Pepsi, Mountain Dew, Fresca, Sprite, root beer, whatever base, and mixing it with flavors and creams and fruit in some situations, and just making this wonderfully customized concoction if you want to come up with one yourself, or picking one of our menu favorites. And it's just really taken hold, like I said, because I think it's something people won't necessarily do for themselves at home.
Yeah.
But we do it so well. And we know about those long lines, and we're working on those. We love the long lines because that means people want to try us out. But at the same time, we know we've got to work on those.
Well, I will say it moves very, very fast.
Yes,
and it's
thank you.
Also hilarious and entertaining because you're like, oh my gosh, it's just like, it's got this following. You know,
Yes.
I mean, I FaceTimed a friend who goes almost daily in Arizona, and she's like, the line is worth it. It just tells you that it's gaining so much traction. And I didn't realize it had been around for 15 years already. I mean, you're in how many different markets and how many locations are there at this point?
Well, we just celebrated between company and franchise locations 100 stores not too long ago, and we've already surpassed that, right, as we continue to build stores. And what I love is when you go through the line, our team members are out there catching the cars. You know, you don't wait till you're at the intercom or the window. They're coming to you. And kind of like they used to say about the mail carriers, you know, they're out there when it's cold, they're out there when it's warm or hot with a smile on their face to get your drink order. So it has really caught fire. It's all over TikTok, social media, all the things. We have yummy treats. I know I told you which ones my favorite cookies and pretzel bites to order. But I just love our team members who just do it with a smile and who are actually excited to hand you that happiness in a cup and make your day.
Happiness in a cup, what a great phrase.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit. Obviously, you've made some big career changes. I'm seeing a theme with creativity in the form of cards and art and, you know, marketing materials, and then you've got creativity in a cup. What do you feel like is the best advice you would give, you know, a young female that's working her way up and trying to figure out her path?
Oh gosh, it's something I love to do a lot right now, which is mentor young professionals, especially young women or women returning to the workforce actually too after having a family or making a different choice or living abroad. And I love it when people connect with me on LinkedIn and send me a message and say, hey, could I talk with you for a few minutes? Because I will always say yes, because I think I have learned from my journey. But I have lots of things that I think are important. I'll just share with you a couple, as I've been asked from time to time to share them in more formal settings. I think the first one is, sometimes we get in a job and we're just thinking that this next move that's going to be good for us professionally or personally or whatever is just going to fall out of the sky, right? And it's probably not. And so if you want to stay in the company that you're in, you need to advocate for yourself. You need to stretch yourself by taking on new and different assignments. I can't take credit for the metaphor, but I much prefer the metaphor of the jungle gym than the ladder when it comes to a career, right? Because when you're climbing a ladder, there's always someone's rear end in your face. Yeah. And for you to take the next rung up, someone has to fall off or go up the next rung. Whereas if you think of your career as a jungle gym, you go up, down, over, across. You might need to take a lateral move. You might need to take a step back. You might need to join a different team. So I think thinking more broadly as what experiences stretch me, grow me, challenge me, show that I'm adaptable, flexible, teachable. Those are the things that I think are likely to grow your career. You might also have to move out to move up. I was at a company and I adored my leader and the general counsel, and he was young and talented and he wasn't going anywhere. And so for me to achieve my professional goals, I had to be able to take a risk and leave the company and take a different role with a different company to grow my career and to achieve my goals. So that's, I think, thing number one. Think about that jungle gym metaphor as opposed to a ladder. Don't count on it just falling out of the sky. Have some accountability and take ownership of it. And then finally, be a consumer of feedback. That's my number one. When everyone asks me, what's your number one piece of advice? It's be a consumer of feedback. Now, I define feedback as information shared with positive intent that leaves the person feeling helped. So when people say feedback, sometimes they're just criticizing or complaining or judging. That's not feedback.
Yeah.
Feedback to me is information shared with positive intent that leaves the person feeling helped.
Yeah.
But we should seek out feedback, and then we should embrace feedback when we get it. You always get to choose what you do with it, right? You can embrace it and adapt to it and incorporate it into your style or your habits, or you can say, good to know, probably not going to change the way I am on that particular topic.
Sure.
But be someone that is a consumer of feedback that people feel comfortable giving you feedback, because everyone else's perception is their reality. And it's good to know how you're perceived, how you're doing, how you're valued. So feedback.
What's something that people might be surprised to learn about your journey?
Oh, that's a good one. Well, I think I am the poster child for own your own career, for sure. I mean, to achieve my goals, there's a lot of self-imposed disruption on my resume.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good thing, and taking risks. Now, I have definitions for everything, so of course I have a definition for risk, but taking a risk isn't just doing something willy-nilly because you hope it'll work out, right? It's calculated. It's looking at something that probably has a ton of potential upside, but might have some downside. But it's that calculation of, does the upside create greater opportunity, growth, and reward for me than the downside of staying where I am? So it's a very calculated way of thinking about a career move. And I've taken some risk.
Yeah,
and
I would say so.
And it's been obviously to my benefit, and I've learned a lot. And one of the things that I've talked about before is finding opportunities that align to your values. I had an experience in my career where I thought I had landed what was my dream job. But my conscience, my Jiminy Cricket, whatever you want to call it, was prodding me through the process that, I don't know if you're going to be a great fit for this. But I wanted the opportunity so desperately. It was the right next step in my career. So I took it, and sure enough, my dream job didn't turn out to be that dreamy. And while I was proud of everything I did there, and I think I left a healthy legacy, and I have lasting relationships from that particular chapter in my career, when I think about what the disconnect was for me, it was that values misalignment. And when you are working in an organization, whether it's a company, a firm, a nonprofit, whatever it is, where your values and its values don't align, it's exhausting.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're in an organization, for me, like Hallmark, where the values line up with your values, that is energizing and rewarding. And you're not burning excess energy through the exhaustion of values misalignment. You can apply all of your energy towards helping the company and doing your job and growing and developing others. So I think that values alignment is something that I learned through that experience that then I've looked for at every opportunity since then. Do my values align? And I'm not talking about just the stated values. A lot of organizations can print values on a website or a poster board, but you have to do your homework and really ask about those things in that courtship process to make sure that you're not going to be exhausted by that values misalignment.
What about someone, what would your advice be to someone who knows that their values don't align, and what if they're afraid to take that jump and leave the company that doesn't feel like the right fit? What would you tell that person? I
would say do a lot of soul searching and contemplation, right? So have the courage, if you are being exhausted by the values misalignment, if you're not happy, they can probably tell. They might not be happy. And it doesn't mean you have to slam your hand down on the desk and walk out right away, right? Yeah. So but start exploring, okay, what would my next chapter look like? What are some opportunities I should consider? Start networking. Have that, they used to call them elevator speeches. I don't know what
elevator pitch
call them now, but start gently talking with your network and your peers about, hey, I'm open and I'm exploring. You don't have to say I'm leaving company X, right? Because people are usually concerned, oh, my company's going to find out I'm leaving, so they're going to dismiss me, or whatever the fear might be. But start socializing this idea that I'm exploring what a next chapter might look like for me, and talk to the people you admire. Talk to your mentor. If you don't have a mentor, get one, and we can talk about what that process looks like. But start articulating this exploration. And it's amazing how just starting to talk about it and to share it with others, your personal friends, your professional members of your professional network, will help you get that confidence, get those ideas. People will share their reinforcing stories, which will give you the courage to make that move, and then start making a pathway towards that next opportunity. When you know it's not right, you kind of know it's not right. And you can stay frustrated and exhausted, or you can start the process of charting a path to something that probably has a better opportunity to be more rewarding for you.
Absolutely. And how would you suggest someone go about finding a mentor?
So ask other people, do you have a mentor, and how did you get your mentor? Are you in professional networking groups? Is there someone in there who would be a mentor? Like your church, your, social organizations that you're a member of, just start talking to people about, hey, do you have a mentor? How did you get your mentor? Are there formal mentoring programs through your connections, whether that's in your job or somewhere else? And then just ask someone. There are several young women in my life who I've been mentoring for years who literally just sent me a note, will you be my mentor? And I'm like, that just didn't know me, but saw something in me that they admired, or something about my path that they thought would help them. And they just asked me, how do you say no to that? Yeah. And so I think if you think of a mentor as someone who can be an accountability partner, a problem solver, not someone to vent to, pick other people for that, but someone who can really help you be accountable for your choices and help you solve problems and pathway to what you want to pathway to. I think there are lots of opportunities, but it's always, again, it comes down to that communicating, that starting to socialize that with others, and just be bold. What's the worst that can happen? Someone can say, I'm too busy, but probably not.
What's your go-to Swig order?
Like all good lawyers, there's more than one answer, and it depends. If I'm feeling like I just want my original go-to, it's the Founder with a splash of cherry.
Okay.
If I want something on the healthier, lighter side, I'm not doing caffeine, the Strawberry Breeze with sparkling water is fantastic. And then my in-between go-to, which has your caffeinated, non-caffeinated option, is Island Time. Fruity, refreshing, light, great for this time of year.
Yep.
You can have it as it's made off the menu with Fresca, but if you need a jolt, you can order it with Diet or regular Mountain Dew, and you'll get the refreshing island drink feel, but you'll also get a pick-me-up. Yes.
Oh my gosh.
And then, pretzel bites are a must when you go through the line.
With
for
that
sure.
cheese.
Exactly. So get out and, I know you tried it, but come see us. We want to make you smile.
I love it.
Yeah.
Jill, thank you so much. It's been an honor.
It's been so fun to sit. We've talked about many things in our relationship over the years, and we haven't had this conversation, so it's been an absolute delight.
Thank you.
You're welcome.